Hey there, I'm Rishikesh back on my YouTube channel. Today I'm taking up a new lesson on letter writing. It's an English part. It's an English part of writing skills. So let's move on. Today I'm going to discuss the common problems which people face while writing letter. So let's move on. Notice. This is the most common thing I wanted to tell, which is that this time I'm only publishing this one. Basically only 10th. I don't know if this is applied for others also, but right now I'm doing it only for 10th. So let's move on. Moving on, most common questions asked for letter writing are shall I write my address or shall I write someone else's address? How am I supposed to write the date and other stuff? So, let me give you a common look at the questions and topics which I'm going to discuss today. So, let's go. First question is what's the format? Some very important part of it. What is the word limit? Should we write our address or someone's random address? How should the date be written? How should your address be written? Minimum paragraph numbers is how to close and start the letter. So let's begin with the first topic. So what was the first topic? What's the format? So let's go. What's the format? Format is writing the sender's address first, writing the date, then writing the editor's address, then writing the subject, and then writing the salutation. This is the most common format for writing a letter formally, specifically formal letter. Forgot to specify the closing salutation part. It's okay, now you know it. There's a closing salutation. You can make a short note of this. Let's move on to the second one. So our second question is what is the word limit? Now this is not a nice and interesting question. Okay, it's not too much to the slide. Let's go on. The word limit is around 120 to 150. It's preferable to write between these. I write always almost above 150, but it depends to every person. But if you write below 120, there are more chances of your marks getting deducted, no matter of your writing skills. So our third question, should we write our address or some random address? Now this was a common question attracted to me also, but now I got to know. So the address should be of yours only, I prefer, because I know that I'm used to my address and I keep writing it. I don't write anyone else's address. I write only someone else's address if it's given in the question. Like for example, Mrs. X is writing to the editor of the newspaper. So I'll write Mrs. X or Mr. X or Y's address if it is given in the question. If it is not given, you can write someone else's. At these cases, I would prefer you not to write your own address. Final conclusion would be to write your own address if it's specified that you are writing the letter. Now let's move on to the next question. So how should the date be written? Now this is a very easy question. The date should be written just in a simple format of first the date, not the date basically, but the number of the day of the month. Then you should write the month, not the number of month. So after you write the number of month comes the year. 2000XX could be anything, 17, 18. I am taking the video in 17, so I am writing currently 2017. This is how the format is going to be. Date in numbers, month in words, comma is a specific thing. Now year in numbers. Now let's move on to the next question. I'm a bit in hurry. How should your address be written? Now this is a question. Let's move on. Writing an address is an easy task. I know that. Everyone says that. Your teachers might be telling you that writing an address in 3 lines is better than writing in 2 lines. But I prefer writing in 2 lines is the best. First, you should write your your flat number or house number or bungalow number, whatever it is, society, house number, something, and then you're supposed to write your society, apartment, etc. stuff. Like if any, if there is no name, it's not compulsory. Now next line, you're going to write your locality or your area, and then put a comma. Comma is specific again over here also. Then write your city's name. For example, I am currently in a city X. I don't want to tell which city I am in. Let it be X. So I'll write like locality area, comma X, and specifying pin code is important. This is how you write your own address. Not own. You can write someone else's also like this. So let's move on to the next question. Minimum paragraphs are, so this is very easily answered question. There are basically 3 paragraphs. 3 paragraphs are minimum. You can increase, but 3 is the most appropriate number. So let's see. The first paragraph should be basically about yourself and introducing others to the problem you're facing, or your friend is facing, or some relative of yours is facing. So it couldn't be compulsorily a problem, it could be the topic you're going to talk on. Now the second one is briefing the problem and use examples if in question or have in mind. Now question may not have this example, like your friend is telling that it's not good, so that could be an example for some particular object. But if you have in mind there is some new thought which is very creative, this won't work in the exam. For writing an exam, you need to have a simple common thought which is usual. You don't need to add up too much of new brainly stuff. Let's move on to the third solution. So the third paragraph, solution to problem and action which can be taken by the receiver. So now if I'm writing a letter to the editor, he can publish it in his newspaper, and I could write some solutions. For example, if it is firecrackers, let me think, we can just ban them. That's what I can write. Can specifically. I am not going against the Hindu religion and stuff, so you can't just do that. Now let's move on to the next one. But remember, you have to write this. How to close and start. Now this is an interesting question. There are too many ways to close and start. Actually, this should have come here and this should have come here. Who cares? The starting. Begin with powerful words like esteemed, draw your attention towards, etc. Now if you are writing to an editor, then you can write through the columns of your esteemed daily. Esteem means something very high and socially upper. So let's see. Through the columns of your esteemed daily, I would like to draw your attention towards. Now drawing your attention doesn't mean you're going to draw a picture on this, but draw your attention means pull. This particular word over here means pull. So as I told, it's a letter to the editor of newspaper. The closing. End with a word like awareness, recommended, through my letter, as we are going to tell that we wrote this letter specifically, so we can spread awareness on the topics which I'm going to talk about. Recommended is something which you're suiting for. Now let's go for the next one, the example finally. Now the example could be like, again I'm writing a letter to the newspaper editor, so I could write like, I finally would like to spread awareness to people through my letter and or slash or, you can use any of them. Recommend not to use gadgets. Now I'm just changing the topic, instead of crackers I'm just using gadgets, so I can recommend people not to use gadgets. So that's it for today. Bye guys.